Hi and welcome to another Flutter tutorial, and today I'm going to talk about the Bookbyte mobile application. So we have taken a look at the application before, which we start with the basic app structure. And for this class, we're going to look into the application structure and also how the application is being structured and with the registration screen. So take a look at the lib folder directory. So the lib folder directory is basically divided into, at the moment, two sections or two subfolders. One subfolders for shared folders and the other one for views, which basically contain all the main pages so far. And here the application. So when we reload the application, so we can see that we have our splash screen, which handled through the views and splash page dot class here. And the splash page basically will implement timer class, which will wait for 3 seconds and then goes to the main page. So the main page class handled by the main page dot, and this class basically just a simple stateful class, which basically build the interface here. The main page consists of the state class, which implement the overall widget build. And the widget build here contain app bar, which is the upper section here. And the app bar here use a row. This is a row, this section here. And it's set to center because the idea is that we wanted to have this right in the middle, which actually when we have the drawer icon button to the left here, it basically take this off center. So that's why we have the row, and the row here which consists of text and also size box, just to offset to the center. And the background color for the app bar is set to transparent with elevation 0. And there's a bottom preferred size at the bottom down here, which is basically just to get this line at the bottom. From a previous class, you can see that it basically consists of drawer, because at the moment now we choose the default UI navigation method. We use a drawer method. And this drawer method implemented through this myDrawer widget class. So the myDrawer widget class, which is this drawer here, consists of the profile drawer, the menu drawer at the bottom, and it basically implemented through myDrawer. So the reason that why we have the myDrawer, if you refer back to the previous class, before that we have a full myDrawer class, which is implemented in the main page class. This is basically just to avoid multiple definition of the same widget tree. So we take out all the myDrawer or the drawer widget tree and then put it into a class. So as you can see, the myDrawer class is basically available in the shared folder, which is called myDrawer.dot. So this is just to avoid doing the same thing multiple times. So all the drawer widget tree, basically put it into a class so that we can just call this one class. And if there's any changes that is required for the menu or if you want to add new menu or items inside here, widget inside here, we can just modify this one class and then it basically work and basically update all the other classes. And all right, so that's basically for the main page. So the main page consists of this. So when the app the first run from the splash screen, it goes here to the main page, which later on we're going to handle all the buy operation, or all the buy screens and whatnot. And the other menu class, we have sales, profile, and setting. So that's basically handled. At the moment, we only have three: buy, sell, and my profile. So which is, as you can see, we have our profile page, we have our sell page. So that's basically for each of these menu. And each of the menu here implemented through a separate class. So for example, for sell page here, so if we open up sell page, we can see that the sell page implemented here, they are basically the same with main page. Okay, they are basically the same with main page, and basically consists of app bar, drawer, and center. At the moment, we don't have much. We don't have any other widget tree as body. So this is basically just for us to move around from one page to the other. So it goes the same, like if we click on the sales menu here. So as you can see, there's a nice transition from one to the other. Like if I go back to the buy page, you can see that then the navigation basically move from the right to the left. That's basically implemented through a special route navigation that I implemented in this class. This is called enter exit route class. The enter exit route class basically implement the page route, which normally we use the previous method. We just use a simple push contacts and just use method page route from where to where. So, but here I implemented what we call as an enter exit route, which is basically just a navigator, a page navigator, but with a nice navigation, right? So with a nice navigation, which allow for the transition. Okay, you can see a nice transition. It's not just abrupt transition from one page to the other, like just pop up the transmission, because we are in the root application directory. So this is our root directory. So we have this nice transition from one to the other, and it look clean in a way. So that's basically just implemented through the enter exit route through page route builder. And the my drawer here, instead of just a push, we just use now enter exit route with the exit page and the enter page, because whenever we click on like buy page here, what we are doing is basically we exit and we enter the same page again. So it's going to save like this. The rest with cells, so we can see that the enter page and exit page, they are basically the same, and also the same with profile page. We are basically entering and outing from the page to the other page. So it's just much easier to manage in terms of a navigation. Okay, so we want to move from one page to the other page with navigation. Actually, you can change the route mechanism or the animation here if you want to, like from left to right or right to left, top to bottom, bottom to the up. So that can be changed here. All right, so now that's basically just a basic navigation for the app. And then let's go back to the registration page, because I believe this is basically where we last stopped. So for the registration page, because we need user for this application to be able to insert data to database. So we need to implement user registration. And the user registration basically implemented through my profile. For now, so here the my profile page, which is implemented in the profile page, basically consists of a navigation, push to a registration page. So this is just another stateful class. that implement a registration form. So when we click on this single button available in this page, it basically pop up a registration form, which is just a very simple registration form, consists of two main elements. So we know that this is implemented through column. We have an app bar at the top. So this is our app bar, which only contain registration form tags. And then inside the body section here, the root widget tree implemented through single child scroll view, because we know that this basically allow for our form to implement scrolling action. And then set everything to center. And here we have our root layout implemented through column. So this is column. The first column section up here consists of image asset, right? And the second portion at the bottom down here implemented inside a container. So this is a container. Inside the container, we set a container padding so that we have 16 padding all around. And then inside padding, we have a form. So everything inside here defined in a form widget, which is implemented, or which is very useful later on for the what we call as a validation. We can use the form key and the form features for to implement a simple validation. And inside the form key, the child form key is a card. So you can see a nice card widget there. And inside the card, we have another padding, which allow us to do some padding inside, again, with 16:4, 16:4, left, top, right, bottom, padding for the card itself. And then finally, inside the card, we have another column. Okay, this is also another column within the column. This is our main column up here, and this is the secondary column, which is implemented inside this card. All right, so in each of the column here, the first section, this is just a simple text, which is indicate this is user registration. And here we have text form field, the first one. This is basically the same with text field, but with form features, which allow us to use this additional validator, allow us to validate the text form field, the field itself. So, for example, here we have validator, which is basically to check. This is a simple, not simple, but this is basically one of the method that you can use in Flutter for if statement. Okay, this is an if statement. So the validator here will check the value that user put it into the text field here, and it will check if it basically satisfies these rules. If it satisfies, means that it is this is the else. If this is true, means that it will implement this. If this is not true, means that this is okay, and then it will continue. You can do it the other way around, like null at the top and the warning at the bottom. All right, so that's basically a validator for text name. And then, of course, we need a controller for each. So this is the second one for the email, and this email validator implement mail validator which check for the availability of @ and dot string, which is constitute for a complete email. And if it is not satisfied, it basically show this. If it is fully satisfied with this, it basically display this, and if it is not fully satisfied, other than that, we'll show, and then we'll continue. For text form field, this also comes with validator. However, we put an obscure text to true. And the validator here, we can create a function which is pass the validator data, which is the text itself, to this function at the bottom. So the validate password is basically this function at the bottom, and it use reject to check for the pattern. Okay, you can check my book, and there's a reject pattern that you can choose from. So for example, here you can see that the password should be containing capital letter A to Z, small letter A to Z. It should also contain number. And the minimum password length is 6. So that's basically how you read a reject expression. So if this is not satisfied, we'll return please enter password, or you can put more details here. And also if it's not valid, so you can just enter it's not valid. If it's empty, enter empty. If not valid, enter invalid. All right, so that's basically to validate the password, and user will require to put that. At the bottom down here, this is basically implemented through row. Okay, so you have your row, and then there's a row segment which consists of 3 items, 3 widget, and the 3 widget here, one with the checkbox. Okay, so this is just to force user to agree with terms. And then down here at the center, we have the text which wrapped with a gesture detector, and the gesture detector which allow for the application to show this EULA alert dialog, or alert which is a dialog. And the last widget here is just elevated button, which just to show register. Okay, so those basically for EULA. You can check EULA method, which the EULA method basically implement what we call as a show dialog, and the show dialog will print out or display alert dialog. And the alert dialog here, this is alert dialog, right? This is alert. This is very, very useful widget to use later on. One is you can use this in, like, if you want to ask user, are you sure you want to enter the data? Are you sure you want to insert data? Are you sure you want to delete data? So this is alert dialog widget, very, very useful, implemented through show dialog. The alert dialog consists of text, which is here, EULA, and then the content inside the alert dialog. So the content here basically formatted through the use of media query. So this is for responsive page. We are able to get the height and width of the screen. So we can use this media query to set the height and width of the size board. And inside there's a column. So it is a column there, and the column consists of expanded widget, which allow us to use this rich tag widget, and this rich tag widget allow for us to have this in what we call as a justified text. All right. So all the text here basically comes from this load EULA. So the load EULA basically we load the data from EULA text. The EULA text available in the asset folder. You can see this is the EULA text. So if you want to change, or if you want to get EULA, you can use a EULA generator. You can check online EULA generator. So there's a number of EULA generator, free EULA generator. So you can use them and take the text and put it into your asset text file. All right. And then to load the EULA, you make sure that you update your pub spec YAML. Make sure that your asset are totally updated there, properly updated there. And then finally, the registration page will call and load the root bundle string data as a text, and then assign to EULA string. So this is the EULA string. And then the EULA string will be used as a text span in the rich text as part of the data here. All right, so this basically will display all the text, and make sure that you set the color to black. I believe that the books basically didn't put this as black. Make sure that you set to black, because if the text is white, you cannot see the text at all, or you might need to reverse the value. Down here is just a close button there. So that's basically for user registration, and this basically allow us to do the user registration. All right, so now what's next? Now we have all the form ready. We want to test first. You can use you can go to the register button. So the register button basically implement through the registered user dialog, which is available down here. So the registered user dialog, because this will require for us to do confirmation, we need what we call as a confirmation dialog. Okay, ask user either, are you sure you want to enter this, or you want to insert, or you want to register? So confirmation dialog. So what we have here, before we implement the confirmation dialog, we need to implement the validation. We need to check the validation. So this is for validation, to check for the validation. So for example, if I didn't put anything, press the register button, you can see that all the validator that we have up here is being triggered. Okay, so all the validator here, enter a valid email, name must be longer than 3, please enter password, please enter password. So all the validator is triggered, and then that's basically implemented through this form key that we have in here, the form itself. So all the form key basically belong to the form, and then we can just use the form key, check the state, and do the validation. And if the validation is incorrect, it will return, and basically return all the validation text warning. All right, so then the second thing that we need to check is the EULA check. So we have the is check here. So if we put everything, like for example, everything is okay, like we put my name here, put an email, and then put a password. So the password here, the validation here will require one capital letter, one small letter, one ABC, 1 through N number, and it should be at least 6. Okay, ABC 1 2 3, and then if I try to press enter here again, and it will basically let me know that please accept EULA first. Okay, please accept them. So that's basically implemented through what we call as a scaffold. Okay, scaffold snack bar. So that's basically a snack bar. Down here is a snack bar, which consists of snack bar pop-up. So if I didn't press on is check, then you can see that it will complain about that. It will show up the snack bar. So that's basically implemented through the if statement there. Okay, so if I don't press on that, you can see that even if you can use a snack bar in many cases, just for notification. You can also use toast to let user know that something is going on. So that's also another great way of doing it. Except that for toast, you need to update the API. The latest version for toast will require for you to update the API in your Gradle build. So that's something else. Okay, so if user agree with terms and then register, so now finally await shows the dialog. So this is basically the show dialog down there. So the show dialog basically display this round dialog. So you can see the rounded dialog set to 20 degree. Register new account. Are you sure down there? If user press yes or user press no. Okay, if user press yes, it will go through register user method at the bottom down here. If user press no, it's just show registration cancel through the snack bar. Right. So if user press yes, go to the register user, and that's basically what's going. That's basically the next step here. So the next step here will require us to go to get all the value from our text controller, and then we need to create our HTTP request, and this will require for you to import your HTTP, and then import your HTTP object, and then prepare our server. Right. So this is basically we need to work with the server side. All right, so we don't have yet the server side, and then we need to create the server side first. So as I mentioned before, what we're doing here is basically we implement the front end side of the application, which some with logic. But then to be able to insert the user registration into database, we will require back-end service. Okay, so in this case, in this class, in this subject, we use what we call as PHP as our backend script, and also MySQL as our database. So that's a very typical client-server type of application. For this, we need to prepare our backend service, our directory, server directory, and also our database. Okay, so for that to work, you need to install XAMPP. Okay, you need to install XAMPP. So if you already have one, run the application. So this is what we call as XAMPP control panel. So XAMPP control panel comes with a number of server-side application stack. But for us, we only require Apache and MySQL. So go ahead and start both services and make sure that the services run with no problem. Okay, so as you can see here, it turned to green, and then the port number is put it here. For Apache web server is 80, and for the MySQL database is 3306. So this means that your backend service both are running well. So to test your XAMPP service is running or not, you can open up your favorite web browser and then type in localhost. So it's basically going to show you XAMPP dashboard, and here for for the XAMPP dashboard, it means that your XAMPP is working, is running, and then you can access your phpMyAdmin, which is basically this is your database that later on we're going to work with. All right, but for your application, you need to make sure to get your IP address. Okay, to get your IP address, you will require the following. You need to type in your IP address, and this is your local IP address. Only work for you, and in your environment. Okay, will only work in your environment. So make sure that when you use ipconfig command here, look for the IPv4 address, and this is basically your local address. All right, so copy that, and then if you want to test if your local address is working, just Ctrl V, and then put it into your browser, and then you should be able to get the same dashboard output as you get with a local host. All right, so this is basically the one that you need. This is the IP address that you need. Since we work as a local service, means that every time you want to use the service, make sure that your XAMPP is running, and then check your IP address. Make sure, because if you are in the university, in the college area, the IP address it might be changes all the time, depend on your location. So check on that. And then once you have your IP address here, so we need also to prepare another class. This is just for server configuration. So for example, this is a class that I created in the shared folder called myServerConfig. So the class name is myServerConfig with a single variable here. And this is where you put your IP address. Okay, so like for example, my IP address now is this address. So I need to put it here. And depending on your IP configuration later on, you need to change this all the time. Okay, so that's one thing that you need to do. Another thing that you need to update your Android app source main and Android manifest here. You need to add this. Okay, you need to make sure that your Android, maybe if you're running this on Android device, you need to turn on this to true, or if you don't have this, you need to make sure to add this into your Android manifest. Set use clear traffic equal to true, which basically allow for your application to properly communicate with your server. If you don't turn this to true, and your HTTP is just a plain HTTP, it won't work. Okay, so you need to make sure that it is basically turned to true. Okay, so it's very important. This is very important to set your Android manifest. It's very, very important. Okay, make sure that you have this in your Android manifest. All right, so once you have that, now you are ready to set up your server directory. To set up your server directory, make sure that for XAMPP, you need to go to your drive C, go into your XAMPP folder, and then go into your htdocs. And this is where you're going to create your server directory. So for the Bookbyte application, so I'm going to create a new folder, and the folder name is going to be Bookbyte. And this is basically the server directory. Okay, this is your server directory. So every time you want to access your backend, this is where you put all your backend service. Just to test, so you can just change you can access your browser and then change with your IP address and your server directory name, and that's basically will show you this. And at the moment, it didn't contain anything, and this is basically your server application directory. All right. So usually the way that I structured the server inside the Bookbyte basically consists of 2 more folders. I'm going to create 2 more folders, one for PHP and the other one for the images or asset. All right, so those two files, two folders at the moment. So all server-side directory, server-side script will be inside this PHP folder. All the asset images, audio, video, whatever that we require will be in this folder. Right, so now you can see if I refresh on this, you can see there's a 2 folder there already. So it means that the server directory is ready. So once you have your server directory ready, next you need to go to your database. Right, so you need to access your database. So to access your database and create your database, you need to go to your browser again and then access your PHP MyAdmin. So for PHP MyAdmin, you need to create your database. Go on new and create your database name. So this is a Bookbyte, and usually I'm going to give it a name Bookbyte DB. Right, so the Bookbyte DB as the database name, and create user. Create the database name. All right, so now we need to register this user into database. So there are tables for user. So the table for user here, so definitely the way that I define my table name, usually I use TBL in front, and then the object name or the class name. So here users, and the number of column required here depend on the data, the amount, the number of data that you have here. So here, for example, we have name, we have email and password. So there's only 3, but there are also other data that we require here. For example, that user ID and also registration date. So that will leave us to 5 data. Okay. So for table user, number of column required, I'm going to create 5. And whenever you want to create table, you need to provide your field name. So your field name, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you need to provide all the field name. So for table user, usually I'm going to start with user ID, and data type is integer. And for now, we can use for the length of the value for user ID. And this usually I'm going to use auto increment for the data. Okay. The second data, this is for user email. For user email, usually I use varchar. So 50 character more than enough. For user password, I'm going to use password. So password usually I set to varchar, and the length of password, if you want to use, usually you don't store password as a naked password, you call just plain password. You need to hash the password, and the simplest hash is basically SHA-1. So there are other hash mechanism or hash method that you can use, but the simplest one is SHA-1, which basically will hash the value that you're given into 40 character long. So whatever password that you're given, it will hash into 40 character long, so it cannot be reversed. If you don't use any dictionary value password, it cannot be reversed. Okay, so 40 character long should be used or defined if you want to use SHA-1. Other than that, user password. So we have user email, password, or name. All right. So maybe we can just put it down here. And this one is varchar. This is 40 character long. For user name, okay, user name, we can put 50 character also. I'm not sure if anyone with anything longer than 50, or if you want to play safe, you can put like 100. Okay, and finally for date reg, so we can have user date registration, and this is always set as this is auto also. You can use date time. So date time, the length of the data is always 6. And the default value is a current timestamp. Okay, so those are basically the tables. And then we can just create the tables for now. So you can just save, it basically will create the table for you. But then again, you have to go back and set your ID as AI, which is auto increment. Okay, so it will basically create this as your primary key. For your user email, we know that nobody else will enter the same email twice. So you might want to set this as a unique. All right, so it means that this is your secondary key here. All right, so that's basically your table for user registration. Okay, so you can check on the on your if you want to. You can check on designer. So this is basically the design of the table for table user. Okay, which later on we might need to add more into the table, but for now this is the only data that we have, and we want to store this data into database. All right, so now what we have is we want to have all the data and put it into database. That is basically required for our form. Okay, so we're going to go back to registration form here. And the registration form here, which is for this HTTP request. So the HTTP request will require what we call as a backend PHP script to work and then to accept all the data and then store the data into database. Okay, so the HTTP method, the HTTP object here, we call our post method, and we'll use our URL that we're given through the my server config here, and then we will create this backend script and pass these three data, because we only have three data. We have name, we have email, and then we have password. Okay, so and then the HTTP request will send, and then we need to create this file on our server called registeruser.php. So the server side will require a new file. So the file here we have registeruser.php. So we need to create that file, registeruser.php. So you can just go use Notepad. All right, so here you can just create your backend script, and the backend script will accept that data and then put it into database. All right, we're going to look into that later. I think that's all for this time, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye.